Welcome. I'm Amy Taylor-Kabbaz, and this is the Happy Mama Movement podcast, a podcast dedicated to bringing the groundbreaking insights of matrescence to the world through interviews with leading experts, mamas, and those who are dedicated to making sure mothers are supported differently. These are our stories and your stories. Thank you for being a part of the matrescence movement. Ashley, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm so pleased that we could make a time that actually worked for the both of us, because being a mama, you've got lots of things you're juggling all of the time. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. And I know it's tough with our time zone, so I'm really happy we could make it work.
Yes, we made it work. It's 6 a.m. here for me, but we're here. So your story and what you've created for other mothers is so incredible. When I first started reading about it, I thought this is such a beautiful, practical way to acknowledge the real issue of what working mothers face in the workplace and why so often they don't take that promotion or jump out completely. So I thought to share that story, could you take us back to your mum's experience of working when you were growing up and what that
Yeah.
was?
Yeah. So, um, a big inspiration for me starting Sundays was my mom. She was a computer scientist in the 80s, and one of the only female computer scientists at the time. She had a really fast trajectory at the beginning of her career. And then when she started having kids, there are three of us, she has three girls. Really felt like there wasn't support for balancing both family and work. And ultimately, she ended up staying home with us, which I'm super grateful for. But I know that she missed out on some fulfillment she could have had outside of the home. And then I also think the world is missing out on contributions that generations of women could have made if they were more supported to participate in both the home and workplace.
Mm. Do you remember being aware of that growing up, that your mum had to choose, um, being a stay at home mum and looking after you and your sisters, not looking after, raising you and your sisters?
I remember being a little bit aware of it. I think it's very interesting to see just how society has evolved a little bit. I feel like now, like I remember growing up that a lot of people's moms were at home, and then sometimes people's parents would like get divorced, and their mom would have to go back to work, and that was like a big kind of experience for them because they had been out of the workforce for a long time and they
Yeah.
couldn't access kind of the same level of roles that they used to have before. So I remember being aware of that. And then on the other side, my dad has always been an entrepreneur. And so he had a very busy work schedule. And I think my mom allowed him to kind of have that flexibility by being the primary caretaker of us. So um, I wasn't aware as much of the trade-offs that went into it, but now when I reflect on it, I think a lot more about about that and also like how was she actually feeling in those moments where I think as a child it's hard to relate or be empathetic to your parents sometimes, but the older you get, hopefully it comes in a little bit more. So now I reflect on that a lot and whether she felt like it there was really a choice or it was like this is what I have to do for my family.
Mm. Yes, because so often we talk about women have a choice. And in a lot of my work in Mama Rising and what I teach, it's we call it the perceived choice. It's this, we're told that we have a choice of whether we work or stay home. And often that choice is not as it's not as clear or easy as we are told or believe it will be when you're going into it. So I love that you've pointed that out. I also wonder, when you then thought about when you may become a mum, what you thought that would be like then, if that's what you'd seen your mum go through and you were so lucky to have her at home all those times. Did it influence what you thought you would do when you became a mum?
I always wanted to have both a career and a family, and I think that I was talking to someone a few weeks ago and they were coming from a similar background to me where they had a dad who was an entrepreneur and a mom who stayed at home, and they were like, it was really hard for me because I wanted to be two people, two full people in one person, and it's just not realistic. And so when you're thinking about it, and I thought, I mean, I'm not sure that I've even fully processed and accepted that yet, but it really hit home to me because I think that in so many ways there are huge things I admire that my mom was able to do. Like she was able to like she's so dependable. Like she always shows up when she says she will, even or like even at times that are like inconvenient and things like that. And I think that when you're trying to balance things like work with having a family, you can't necessarily do that. And so I think that those are things that I'm thinking a lot about as I get further into motherhood myself.
Mm. I love that you say it's like trying to be two people in one. That is such a great way to describe what we're trying to do if we're trying to build a career or keep that career that we've worked so hard for, as well as being a parent. And we go into these, we go into our role as mother with these hopes and expectations. Like, I'm always there at every opportunity, even when it's inconvenient. I'm there
Hmm.
when they need me, all of that. And then also balancing that with a career that needs you all of the time. That's what so many of our generation of women who are trying to do it all, as we were told we could, struggle with day in, day out, is that I want to be the type of mum that I had, but I also want to be the type of career person that maybe my dad was. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally impossible to be two people in one, but and yet we try and do it, don't we? We tell ourselves that we're going to be able to do that one.
Totally. I think that, yeah, and I think that just those expectations are, we're just putting maybe too much on ourselves that we can't possibly be successful in. And then I think also you kind of get into this spiral of like, I'm not doing this right. So then I am also not feeling good about anything. And so I think just that perspective, trying to have a little bit more perspective on what's what's truly possible for one person and then what's most important for you. So you're focused on those things and trying to let some of the other things go is really helpful.
Yeah. So then when you became a mum, you went into a similar industry as your mum. You went into, a successful career. And then how was that reality?
Yeah, so I work in the tech industry, same tech industry in the San Francisco Bay Area that my mom was in for a little bit over a decade, and I really loved it. I was able to be pretty successful in my roles. It's very exciting. There's like a lot of innovation happening. And then the further that I got in my career, the more I saw that I was working with all of these amazing, really smart women. But the older that we got, the further up in our careers, the more people were really struggling because they were starting to introduce family um, into their balance too, and they either they just didn't have as much time. And I think at work today, we often expect people to be always on, like you were saying, and we talk about like success at work as being the most responsive and being able to kind of pick up any project that gets thrown at you. And that's just not always compatible with family life. And um, yes, I just saw a lot of the smartest people I know really struggling after they had families. And then I actually decided to start Sundays before having my own kids. I have my first son. He's only 4.5 months old right now. So I'm
Mhm.
very early in the parenting journey myself. But
Oh,
um
I love this. So this developed before you were even a mum yourself.
yeah, yeah. So I mean I'm a very type A person. So I think a lot of it was me
Most
planning
of us who
ahead
do
and
most
yeah.
of us who create things are. I love that.
So I think some of it was planning ahead and thinking like, what can I do to create that
Mm.
family and work um, mixture? I don't know if it's actually balanced, but mixture for myself and just doing as much research as I could with everybody I knew who was trying to find that balance and see could that be is that a problem we could solve? I think I was working in tech and I think like today, if I look at my desk, everything that I see is created in the last 30 years. But we made so little progress on how we support families
Mm.
and workplace at the same time.
That is such a good point. That is such a great point. We've created all of this amazing technology and all of these advances in so many areas that has changed so much of our life. And yet, the reality of trying to balance, or as you say, keep parenting and work in the mixture has hardly changed at all. I mean, until you created what you have. So, I'm really interested to know a little more about the research that you did before you created this company. I understand that in 2023, you interviewed 300 working parents about
Yeah.
what exactly were you asking them and what did you find?
Yeah, it was I mean, I started really open-ended, and I come from, like, a technology background, so I was hoping, like, there's an app or a system I could build that would solve this problem, but the more parents I talk to, the more I realize they don't just need, like, a new system, there's actually not enough time in the day, but
Mhm.
I just started reaching out to every parent I knew, and I was like, "Can I talk to you about how you think about family and work?" And so many people were immediately willing to talk about it. I think because that's so hard for almost everyone. And I would ask them like, what does an average day in your life look like? And most of them would, most of them would say like they get up pretty early um, to start their day and to prep things for their family. Then they spend some time with their kids in the morning. Then they rush out the door to do drop off, and then they're like doing paid work for um, some period of the day, like 9 to 5, but often more than that, and then they're back on kid time and trying to be present with their kids, but, like, their Slack is still blowing up and things like that, and then, they try to make dinner, which is super stressful for a lot of families, and then get their
Mhm.
kids to bedtime, and then a lot of them are still doing more paid work after that because they felt like they didn't get enough done during the day, and that was basically what their weekdays look like, so really packed for the 12 or 14 hours every single day, and then, building up like a family to-do list over time because there's still a lot of things that it takes to keep a family running that have to go on in the background and that somebody has to make time for. And so most of them would say that they have like a long family to-do list that they would try to tackle every Sunday. And that's how we came up with the name for the company Sundays because we want to give people that day back to have time for rest and to be with family.
You know, when you describe what an average day is like, I'm thinking in my head, why would anyone say yes to this? To become and I don't mean to be negative because obviously it's the most incredible thing. I did an interview earlier this week with someone. We were talking about the reduction in birth rates. Like more and more women just are not sure that they want to become a mother. They've seen the impact that it has had on women around them, or maybe a bit older than them. They see the motherhood penalty. They see what it actually is like, the reality of trying to juggle it all. And a lot of women, like a generation or two below me, are kind of opting out. And then we try and talk on a political scale about what we need to do to support that or to increase the birth rate again. And it's not really been acknowledged that what you just described is one of the biggest reasons why women are not willing to do that. There's other reasons like the state of the world and the future of the environment, etc. But also at a very personal level, it's crazy to try and do all the things that you just described day in,
Hmm.
day out. That mental load, that invisible mental load of trying to keep that career going and then be present with your kids. And then that to do list. Oh my gosh, I was almost getting anxious just listening to you talking about it. So, the biggest thing you were hearing is like time. There's
Yeah.
not hours in the day to be able to be the present mum that we want to be, as well as the career that we're building. So, how do you create more time in a woman's day? Well, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough challenge. So,
Mm.
um, we are definitely still learning. But what I heard as I was talking to all of these parents was just like they use apps to try to stay organized. They have systems for some of the things that they do, but it's just not enough. There's still the mental burden of everything that they're doing, and then the time to actually like execute on it. Like I was talking to my husband this morning, and I was saying like even I know what I we already have a plan for meal planning, but I was like, just like actually getting the groceries, even ordering them online is like this overwhelming task that I like have to really block out a bunch of time to do. So, um, I was, and I have somebody who sets up an order for me, which is really nice. But
Good.
as I was talking to people, I was hearing things like that, where there are these small tasks that are not, they're not necessarily like going to take up so much time, but there's the mental burden of remembering you have to do it, of planning to do it every week that comes up. That's really overwhelming. And so, as I was talking to them, we kind of decided to try a few different things and experimented with how that might look. But what we ended up doing is we now have a team of executive assistants who are also moms. So basically, they get it. They are doing it for their own families, and they have a lot of experience with how running a family works in this culture. And then we pair each family with an executive assistant on our team, and they help them to tackle all of those things. So things like meal planning, or making sure you're going to the doctor, or planning for a big family trip. The things that just like you don't have time for, and a lot of times they're draining. Sometimes they might be fun, but like when they take up so much time, they're no longer fun. So, just creating support for those.
Oh my gosh, sign me up. I often say there's an incredible journalist here in Australia called Annabelle Crabb, and she wrote a book a few years ago called The Wife Drought. And one of the things that she said in that is women need a wife and men need a life. And my girlfriends and I, and other women who run businesses like me, we always talk about I need a wife. Like I need someone like
Yes.
me to do all the things that is expected that I should do. And so it's like an executive assistant for the family. It is that person who just takes those tasks off off your plate and gives you that space and that mental load. And when you were talking about the groceries, I have a meal box delivered once a week that's got 3 meals for the family. And that's awesome because I don't have to go to the shops and it's just dropped off here. But every week I need to go in and choose the meals. Otherwise, they just automatically choose them for me. And
Mhm.
if I miss that, we often get meals that my kids won't eat. So even that one little time, literally, actually, it would take me 5 minutes to go through the selections and tick.
Yeah.
But that box arrives every Friday morning, and it's probably 50% of the time, I'm like, forgot to eat the meals that we like. Like, that is something that to somebody who's not a mum and trying to juggle everything wouldn't seem like a big deal. But in that moment, there's this little part of me that says, Amy, all you had to do was get in there and tick those meals. And that I've been coaching and listening to mums for a decade. Those little moments of feeling like, oh, I wasn't on top of it, that builds up in a woman.
Yeah.
That's what makes her feel like I just can't do all of this. And then that's what makes her step back from the workforce. It may seem like this tiny little thing, but those are the things that build up that make her feel like I just can't do all of this.
Yeah. I totally understand that. And I hear that from a lot of parents. And I think it's kind of like the daily small things usually that feel like you're kind of slipping, or they're falling through the cracks. And I think everybody has very, as we were talking about earlier, just like very high standards for what they want. And yeah, one of the happiest, as I was doing this research, one of the happiest moms that I talked to, just said like, I don't try to be perfect. Basically, like we eat the same. They eat the same thing every week. So she's like, I just order the same groceries every week, and we eat the same thing every week, and
I
that's
love
fine.
that.
Like, and it works for her, and it saves her both the mental and the like time energy.
Mm. So, what is your goal and dream and vision for this for Sundays?
Yeah, so I mean, our goal is just to help as many families as we can, and to get as many help mostly moms have meaningful careers um and the family lives that they want. And I feel like there's a balance in those things.
Mm.
And then at the same time, want to we want to build a place that people can work and have flexible roles that let them work from home and also balance their family lives. So for a lot of people on our team, they would otherwise be basically locked out of the workforce because they wouldn't have access to roles that work with their family priorities. And so, both creating accelerating people in their careers and creating career opportunities for people on our team.
Yeah, it's incredible. What an amazing vision. And so the last thing I want to ask you is about your experience of becoming a mother now. So you were probably more aware of what the reality would be like than most of us, not only because of what you'd thought about with your own mother and then what you saw in the workplace and then all the research you did. So, what has it been like to now step into this role yourself?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I think that I there were so many things I learned in doing the research, but one of the biggest and most important things has just been that it's really hard for everyone. And so even people where on the outside you think like they have it all handled, or people who are really, really smart, it's really hard. It's just
Mhm.
you're doing something that's hard. And I think having that perspective is always really helpful when things do feel hard. So I try to remind myself of that. And then um I have been back at work for a few months now, and I'm lucky to have support from a person on the Sundays team that really helps me with both work and family stuff. So she has context kind of throughout my life of all the things that are going on. So she knows when things are really busy at work or really busy at home. And that's just been invaluable because I can just send her like a quick message and she already understands what's happening. Like I needed to reschedule a pediatrician appointment, and she already had context on who the doctor is and what my schedule looks like and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I
And
love
so
this so much.
then that's been really good. And yeah.
And you had a little boy?
Yeah, I have a little boy. His name is actually August, and it's his first August. So
Oh,
he's enjoying that.
yeah. And the balance of with your partner, how is that sort of unfolding? Because you're also working and building a business, and you're a mother now as well. And I think that's the other thing that we're not always prepared for the sharing of the load of
Yeah.
parenthood with our partner as well. And so often I hear that can be another big part of struggle or resentment for new mums, that it just automatically falls back on the mother in that caring role, even if she's doing a huge job and career every day. So,
Yeah. It's been really interesting. I think that my husband has been super supportive. We went into it. He also runs a business, so we have a lot of the same work constraints, which is helpful. I think just in terms of like understanding what each other has going on. And then I we went into it wanting to be very like 50-50 about things, and I think that this was something that was really hard for me to understand before, but just like I think my like emotional or hormonal reaction to having a baby was just different than his, like biologically.
of
And
course,
I think that was a very interesting first couple of months because for him it was taking, I think, more effort because he was like, I feel like I'm putting so much in and I'm not getting that much out. And I already felt really connected to the baby. Um, which I know is like a different experience for everyone, but for me, I did. I wasn't like feeling like I was putting in so much effort and not getting things in return. And so I think that's really interesting because I wonder if that for a lot of families leads to a little bit of this like imbalance in who takes on what, because the mom might feel more connected and they are thinking more proactively about all of the things that the baby needs. And so yeah, it's been interesting, but I think now he's feeling I think we made it past the 4th trimester, and the baby's so much more interactive, and I think now he's my husband's really loving it. Um and so now it feels more, it's not that we weren't equal before, but it was hard for me when he was doing equal work but clearly not enjoying it.
yeah,
And so I was like, "Oh, well, I'll do that thing 'cause it doesn't bother me," or things like that.
yeah,
And so
you
now
have
I
just
feel like
nailed it. That's such an
more
incredible
equivalent.
insight.
Yeah, I mean, that's what my experience has been so far,
Mm,
but yeah.
yeah.
Is that
No,
something you see frequently with the people you work with?
oh, absolutely. Also, so often the non-birthing partners or the fathers have to go back to work really quickly, and so those first, even if it's just a few weeks that the mum is home on her own, she's developing these skills. She's learning the skill of what does that cry mean, and how to change a nappy when they're screaming, and all those different things. And we so often assume that she knows how to do that because she's the female. And
Yeah.
I love all the incredible new research, the neuroscience that's coming out around how the brain changes when you become a parent. And it's shown that it's like, yes, is some hormonal changes that you were experiencing that your husband wasn't able to at that time. But the skill of knowing how to parent has got nothing to do whether you were born with male or female. It's more about the lived experience of practicing and being there 24/7. So for you both to recognize right at the beginning that he's doing all of this stuff but isn't getting that same response yet because you're still physically and hormonally doing it. And then when you
Mhm.
both come out of it, because so often the partners will retreat at that beginning point, like, oh, there's nothing really I can do. It looks like you've got this. And so you set yourself up for this imbalance. And I love that you both have been able to see right from the beginning that that's okay, it's going to balance out. And then when he starts crawling and is on the go all the time, it can be his job to do that.
Yeah.
It balances out over the long term. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I mean, it definitely felt hard at times to
Mm.
have that perspective, but I think
Mm.
it's just getting more and more fun, I think, also, and
Yeah.
better over time. So I'm sure, I mean, I know I've heard that toddlerhood is a lot and there are so many different stages, but um, it's
It's
cool to
all a
have
lot.
an actual little human a little bit now.
Exactly. It's all a lot. But what I love about what you're doing in your own life, but also in this business, is really allowing all of the invisible parts, those parts that feel hard, and fall back on her, the parts that nobody sees. You're making them more visible. You're making the invisible visible with this app and this technology and what you're doing. And that's what mamas really need. Both the ones that are already in it and beating themselves up because they forgot to pick up the milk on the way home from work before daycare pickup, and the ones that are preparing for it. So like you were able to, you go into it knowing, okay, this is going to need to be balanced as a family. How are we going to manage this? Like, that's what we really need. So thank you so much for the
Thank you, Amy.
conversation, the work you're doing. I'm going to see if we can if I can get an executive assistant for my life through down here in Australia. But yes, good luck with it. And I think it's an incredible concept that's going to help so many mums.
Thank you so much, Amy. This has been such a great conversation.